covered prep, I'm going to take you through the progression of the pose. So whether you're a yoga teacher or a practitioner, it's always good to kind of take stock every time you come to your mat as to where you're at any given time. There's a level 1 inversion that I always like to offer. It's the first option and it is an amazing inversion. It's just Viparita Karani. So basically on the back, the legs up. You can do this at a wall or you can do this like in the middle of the room. It's super nourishing, it's really nice for the body, and you still get all the benefits of being in an inversion. So always offer this, if you're a yoga teacher, I would suggest always offering Viparita Karani as kind of like a level 1 or an option 1 for those people that may not want to do the pose. And if you're a practitioner, know that if you just don't want to do the crazy headstand handstand thing today, that's always an option and you're still going to get all the benefits. Okay. From there, once you've sort of determined, yes, I do want to start to work on the strength aspects of the pose, you're going to come into dolphin. So you're going to come interlace the fingers, elbows no wider than the shoulders, tap the toes, lift the hips, and press into dolphin. Now, for many people, you're going to stay here until you feel pretty strong and until the hamstrings are fairly long. Once you've kind of created more strength and length in the body, you can start to walk the feet in towards the elbows. You're going to want to drop. So this is where that strength comes in, pressing through the forearms. Take a few breaths here, and once you've walked your feet in as far as you can go, then start to open the hands. Bring the top of the head down and the back of the head into your hands. And again from here, press into your forearms like you're pushing your mat away from you. Even like I'm pressing so hard, like there's very little weight on my head. And then from here, just start to rock the hips. Rock the hips back and forth until you see that your big toes start to get light. Once that happens, pull one knee into the belly, then the other. And you might stay here for a really long time until you get the courage, keeping your hips back, to slowly lift the legs. Once you get into the pose, press into your forearms, keep the shoulders on the back, wake up your legs, maybe like engage your feet, internally rotate the thighs, and then to come out, you're going to go the same way that you came. Slowly bend the knees back into the belly, keep your hips back. One foot, and then the other. And then you're going to rest. So you can take a child's pose here. You put any weight on your head. I always recommend coming onto stacked fists. This just maintains the nice natural curve of the spine. And then just take as many breaths as you need to here until you feel recovered. So I kind of went through that really fast. A couple of things that you really need to consider. These are sort of the pitfalls. Make sure you're always checking, keeping the shoulders on the back. So you really want to be pressing through your forearms to try to take the weight out of your head. The second thing, beware, please do not jump onto your head. So there's a tendency when we get to this point, the ego kind of kicks in. And you know, if the hamstrings aren't long enough, we're way back here. The hips need to come back quite far in order for the toes to get light. But there's a tendency to kind of want to do this. I really strongly encourage you to be patient and to wait until you can get the hamstrings are long enough so that you can get the hips back far enough that the toes start to get light all on their own. And then the pose, even though there's effort, it's not like a colossal effort. There's a balance between effort and effortlessness or ease. So we really kind of want to wait until the body is ready before we start doing some of these tricky poses. So that's headstand. Handstand, super fun. Again, you can have your students, or if it's for you, the practitioner, you can always start with that legs up on the wall as a first option. Again, you're going to get all the benefits. The next option for working on a handstand practice is you're going to bring Bring your mat to a wall. Oh, and I wanted to say this too. For a headstand, you'll notice that even though I'm near a wall, I'm only doing that because I know I'm doing a handstand after this, but really try not to use a wall as part of your toolkit or props to learn the pose. I was taught without a wall, and I really am grateful that I was, because there was nothing behind me to keep me safe. And so I had to really work hard to create the muscular energy and to really learn the pose before I could even come into it, because as you know, it's super scary to go upside down. So I know that some of you will feel more comfortable with it there, and that's fine in the initial sort of beginning stages of your practice, but I encourage you to really try to come away from the wall as soon as possible so that you really are cautious and patient with what needs to happen in your body and in your brain in order to make the pose happen. Okay, so handstand. So for handstand, back to where I was, downward facing dog. I like to have the heels kind of right butt up against the wall. So kind of right at the seam. And then from here, you kind of just want to shorten up a little bit. And then bend one knee into your belly, and then the other one. And you're going to come up to kind of an inverted L on the wall. And if you can see, this is great because I'm actually upside down. I'm putting more weight into my hands. I'm upside down, I'm in an inversion, but I feel super, super safe. And then I'm pushing my feet into the wall, so it's actually super strong. So this is kind of your next level, downward facing dog. Belly in, navel to spine, core is on. It's tough, but it feels super safe. So this is a really great option for those of you that are really scared. And that's a thing for sure. So doing that inverted V on the wall, a couple of things you want to check. Okay, make sure your feet are in line with your hips, right? And make sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. And then even, you can, as you get a little bit braver, you can start to play with bringing a leg up, maybe bringing the other one up. So that's a great pose, and some of you are going to stay there for a really long time. Just when you start to build the shoulder strength, build the strength in the traps that you need in the upper back, it's a great pose. So that's kind of second option. Viparita downward facing dog, and then you're going to be doing the legs up on the V up on the wall, or the inverted L. After that, you're going to turn around. This is where things kind of get scary. I do use the wall for handstand in these prep postures, just because people are super freaked out about doing handstand in the middle of the room because the potential of falling over backwards is pretty high, and most people I know, unless you're a former gymnast, don't know how to cartwheel out. It's not a natural skill that we have. So rather than teaching people how to cartwheel out at this point, I do recommend coming to the wall and learning how much momentum it actually takes to get your legs up over your head. So you're going to come to a wall, hands about 4 to 6 inches away from the wall. The closer your hands are to the wall, the harder it's going to be. So, but you don't want them too far, because you don't want to be leaning the legs way back, because that's going to wreck your alignment. So hands outer shoulder distance, tuck the toes, lift the hips. You're going to start in a downward facing dog. Look forward. Really important. Keep looking at your hands. Walk one foot in and lift the other leg. Drop the hip. So you want to try to keep your hips as level as possible. Pull the navel to the spine. Come up high on the ball of the opposing leg, so the leg that's on the floor, and start to lean forward into your hands. Once you see that your shoulders go past your wrists just a little bit, then take a little hop and up you go. Pressing your hands, engage your core, engage your legs. Keep looking in between your hands. And then slowly
work to lower with as much control as possible. As much control as possible. Keeping your legs as straight as you can. One of the things that I see a lot as a teacher is like people, and it's totally understandable, but people get like crazy spaghetti legs. So they'll be like, whoa, oh my gosh, oh, ah, you know. So that's fine, I get it. It's really unusual to go upside down. But once you start to practice, really try to work keeping things in control. So that means taking your time, that means keeping the legs super strong, and really like staying in containment with your core. That's the biggest thing. I see so many people like banana back. I can't even show you what it looks like because it's just so hard for me to do anymore in my body, but really try to keep that containment through the core. So you're gonna probably, if you're at that point where you're working this, right, shift forward, lean into the hands, shoulders ahead of the wrists, hop. You're probably gonna work that for a really long time until you start to feel super strong. And again, working that nice, slow, controlled release. Once you have that, once you're starting to feel a little bit more confident with that and using the wall, you're gonna stay on the wall, but come back a little bit more. Set it up the same way. Little hop in. Start to lean into your hands. And then play with your hop. Play with your hop so that you start to learn how much hop you need to get into the pose without touching the wall. And so you see what I did there. Sometimes your body starts to shift that way. You got to start to use your hands like little feet to kind of pull you back, and then find that like there's a sweet spot in both of these poses, headstand and handstand. There's like a sweet spot where everything is in line and you don't have to work as hard. So once you start to kind of get like, I got this, I'm on the wall, I can get up, I'm strong, I'm coming down, nice and controlled, start to come away from the wall. And then eventually, you're just gonna come further and further from the wall. And everything is always the same. Set it up the way you have been, hands out at shoulder distance, lean forward, engage the core, and hop. And it might take a little bit to find that sweet spot, but that's okay. That's why they call it a practice. So, lots of fun to be had in these poses. Take your time. It's not something that happens overnight. Once you start like getting it and starting to feel like, woo, a little bit of success here and there, you're gonna find that you're like doing it every chance that you get, and that's great. I have a wall in my house that is like permanently dirty from feet marks from me and my family doing handstands and headstands and forearm stands on the wall. So have fun with it, listen to your body. Namaste.